Namaste everyone. Today I would like to discuss about becoming the matriarch. There are three elements to becoming the matriarch. Number one is earth. It is the teaching of the earth. It is knowing the earth. And how do we know the earth? Through developing our sensor subtle body. Right? Being sensitive, being intuitive, being psychic. So knowing the earth. When we think of the matriarch either it is an elephant, either it is a wolf, is very in tune with the earth, with the changes of the earth, the evolution, right, that's going on the earth when it comes to the subtle energies, right, the sense, really in tune with your sensuality, really in tune with your physical body, right? Really sensitive to your blood, to your organs, and also to nourishment when it comes to nutrients in food, right? We know the earth as in herbalism. We know it as in remedies, right? Remedies that involve weeds, that involve grasses, that involve movements, such as um, a healing ritual, right? That includes, let's say, potions or brews, right? So we think of the earth as the practice of the hearth, right? The hearth is the heart of the home, right? And that hearth is usually where we connect with our sensual energy, right? Our sense of hearing, right? We listen to stories. Our smell, we smell the nutrients in the brew or the stew, right? The seeing, right? We see the flowers, right? The flowers on the table, right? Or we see the hanging herbs or the weeds that are growing on the windowsill or right outside in the little garden courtyard area, right? We taste, right? We taste you can say the nectar or the honey that is the ma, right? The ma, which is the meal, right? And a meal doesn't necessarily mean like a food. It can be a meal such as a story, right? Story of the land, right? Story of the star beams, a story involving music and dance, right? Ma as in, you know, giving of richness of knowledge, right? Or a study. This is very much the hearth, right? It's a gathering, it's a community where the children, the family, the people can come and be enriched by the great soulfulness that is a meal, that is a story, that is, you can say, knowledge that's gifted to the people, such as it can be as well as the flowers, right? The whole queendom is the hearth. And that's knowing the earth, right? Knowing also how we think of the earth as, either you're, a wolf or you're an elephant. You're in tune with, you can say, like I said, you're in tune with how to guide, right? You're in tune with the guidance of the land and how to guide the young ones through the land and how to help them understand the land, right? Very much the earth is about being a teacher, right? And how we're taught the earth is usually through the lineage, right? It's through the matriarch that prepares and initiates the young, right, matriarch into becoming, right, the leader, right, of the tribe, right? So in element number 2, we talk about leadership. So the earth, right, knowing the earth, being aware and sensitive, being intuitive, psychic, self-trusting, right, aware of the the 5 elements, right? We get into leadership, and leadership has to do with integrity, right? When we think of the matriarch in a wolf pack or the matriarch in a group of elephants, the matriarch represents the integrity of the tribe. So when you see my sort of presence get longer, That means the integrity of the tribe, right? It also represents a person, right, or an animal that is like a judge, right, who has experience of the earth, right, either taught from their mother, their grandmother. They're given much experience, right, through education, through study, through initiation, through hands-on participation, involvement with the earth. They gain much experience, and they gain a leadership, which is an integrity. It's like again, it's a deeper self-trust, right? Because you have to have that self-trust as a matriarch, either you're an elephant or a wolf, to be able to successfully navigate your tribe, right? To have the knowledge, like a judge, to be able to make corrective, constructive, and creative choices, to be a very good problem solver. And that's the matriarch, right? Is a very good problem solver. And like a judge, right, in our field of law, right, the matriarch becomes that through experience, through direct contact with the earth, right, and also with the lineage, right? So the matriarch that's being prepared, initiated, right, um, they're given a lot of sort of stories from the lineage, right, the grandmother, the mother, the great grandmother, on issues, right, on problems, almost like they train the young matriarch on strategy. And we're talking about in the wild, like you're a wolf or you're an elephant. They teach you strategy, right? Because a part of having integrity is knowing your strategy, knowing how to solve problems, being prepared, being aware, and being protective, right? So you develop this sense of discernment, right, when it comes to problems and issues and discord or scenarios that may present themselves that can cause some sort of danger, right? That leadership, called the matriarch, is somebody who's good at solving, resolving, and creating a strategy, or creating an environment that is that's safe. And that's an important element, right? Safety. And that is through leadership. When we think of leadership as a general, right? The general is respected because they're credible, meaning they have proven themselves to provide safety for their people. They have proven themselves in great challenge or great sort of adversity to be an individual who is solving, resolving, and creating a path of victory, or a path of steadiness or security, right, within the group or the unit or the community. So that's very much about leadership. And how we develop leadership, again, is through character development. Character development leads to being credible. And leadership and integrity is something that is initiated from young, very young, until you grow, right? And that sort of process of integrity, you have a lot of tests. You are tested by the earth. You are tested by your tribe. The pressure of those tests are going to break you down, right? They're not easy, right? They're very vigorous, and they require a lot of stamina and a lot of endurance and tolerance, because a part of the great test is putting a lot of pressure on you, because whenever there's danger or there's some sort of problem, the pressure is on, right? And when that pressure is high, integrity knows how to alleviate it, knows how to see clearly amongst the heavy pressure, to see clearly and have an agility of intelligence to get the tribe, the community, where they need to go for safety to prevail, right? That's leadership. And credibility, again, it's like the judge, it's through experience. A great judge is only credible or considered, is revered, because the judge has been tested, has been tried, has gone through all kinds of experiences that really sort of challenged their integrity, challenged their character, to be very, very, very secure, right? Very, very secure. And that's how you're able, judges are able to make very seeming quick, but yet decisive and clear decisions. And that's kind of what it is to be a matriarch. Either you're a wolf pack or you're an elephant. They're really, you're very clear, decisive, and you trust yourself because you have the knowledge of the lineage. And as a judge, we talk about being a judge, the lineage is the study of basically law throughout time, right? As like an attorney, you're reviewing law not just in the present day, but in the time, right? The spans of time. And that's a lineage. You're looking at these different scenarios throughout time, and you're looking and learning the stories and how people resolved and solved these sort of issues throughout time in different sort of scenarios of it, right? In a span of time, right? And that's kind of the leadership. Now, the third quality, like I said, creativity. So the matriarch is considered the vessel in which, the vessel that holds all the healing modalities, right? The healing modalities. And healing modalities is considered the wealth of the tribe, right? So a tribe is very wealthy. The wealth of the tribe is dependent on how much, you can say, healing modalities that is practiced within the tribe. Now, healing modalities can be like you're prestigious at building canoes, right? Or you're prestigious at hunting fish. I mean, it can be very simple. You're prestigious at sewing clothing, right? Or making baskets, or making huts, or making homes, right? And making paint, right? That could be a skill. You're really prestigious at making paint or making silk, right? These are what we call healing modalities, or craftsmanship, or trade, or talent. And that's all associated with creativity. And that's what we call the wealth of the tribe. Because back in the day, wealth was through, like I said, you were really prestigious at your trade or your craftsmanship or your creativity, right? Making a basket, making a silk dress, making shoes. That was considered very wealthy, just to know how to make very nice shoes, right? So the matriarch, basically, she's the one that oversees all that. She's the one that is tend to be multi-talented, right? She learns these many healing modalities from her mother, grandmother, and all the women of the community of women that basically are helping to mold the young matriarch into the we call the queen, right? Or the voice of reason, right? There's always a voice of reason for the tribe. That it also, in the tribal times, also the voice of reason, the matriarch would be the one that would create treaties among tribes, right? They would be supervising, right, the chief, or guiding the chief in making treaties amongst the tribe, right? The voice of reason to the chief, right, or the patriarch, right? So she would basically have the voice. She would discuss with the council, with the community of women, and she would be a voice of reason and provide insight or intuition or foresight or psychic awareness that would help the chief, right, make you could say, the layout, right, or the blueprint, or not the blueprint, the treaty, right? So that's kind of the 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 creativity. Again, she's taught how to sew baskets. She could even be taught how to make a canoe. She's taught how to make a flute, how to play the flute, right? The matriarch is taught a lot of skills, a lot of skills. She's very, very multi-talented because she represents the voice of reason, right? The knowledge on various subjects, right? She's like the holder, like she's like the Assachic sort of record, or the Assachic arc line. She has the arc line of the entire tribe and all of the wealth that the tribe has accomplished within the lineage of many years and generations and so on, right? So she learns, right? She's a master learner, and she can make silk dresses, she can make shoes, she can make a canoe, she can make a hut, she knows how to fish, right? She knows how to help bring babies into the world, right? She also is musical, and also she is a storyteller, and again, multi-talented, right? That's creativity. Um, because she is, again, that voice of reason. She is the connection, right? The connection that helps bring the community together, and also when it comes to other tribes, right? She's the one that also makes agreements with other tribes when it comes to wealth and the exchange of wealth, right? Such as, I'm going to, sell my baskets for your whatever it is, right? In exchange. The matriarch is very much, she is responsible for a lot of the exchange when it comes to, currency, when it comes to exchange of energy between tribes. Not only treaties, which has to do with safety and has to do with, turning that friction into ingenuity, right? Solving that problem of that friction, but also when it comes to exchange of currency, when it comes to wealth, right? And circulating that wealth and also organizing that wealth. And she's also responsible for maintaining and sustaining the wealth of the tribe. So we always associate the patriarch as the man who's, the money, we're saying man are the money makers, right? They're the ones that make the money. The Wall Street, we usually picture some white dude, right? Who's just standing like this, like, money falling, I got the money. But in the ancient times, even out there in the wild right now, um, uh, in tribal, sort of tribal periods, it's the woman, right? The matriarch, that's the one that is organizing the wealth. She's generating the wealth, meaning she's the one that's she's watching over as well as like facilitating the sort of um, schooling and kind of institutions where people can learn and become wealthy in their trade. But she's the one that creates the agreements or the principles or the sort of the structure in which the wealth can be sustained, right, and exchanged and circulated in a way that brings about um, sort of harmony, right, amongst the people and the neighboring sort of people, right? So that's these sort of big, right, big time energies. So again, first one is um, first is Earth, right? That's based. You got to know the Earth, or you're if you don't have intuition or some psychic ability, you're not gonna have any clue, right? Earth, and then we have leadership, which is how a matriarch is able to really guide the tribe, right? If she doesn't have that, then she's just going to be kind of like confused and indecisive and like, seduce and just really not confident, right? And then creativity, that's basically the wealth, right? She's there to help make the tribe wealthy, right? She's the reason why the tribe is wealthy, right? Not the patriarch, right? It's the matriarch is why a tribe is wealthy, or why a lineage is wealthy, or why, a generation is wealthy, because she has some sort of study or she has some sort of strategy on how to establish these sort of groups of people that are master builders or master artisans or master, when we think of protectors or sort of master, teaching children, these kinds of things. She oversees all of that, right? So, I want to give you kind of like a little dance for the matriarch. Now, this dance, this is what you're hearing, right? In this is you're hearing, it's called 11 Names of the Divine Mother. So what you're going to hear is you're going to hear Sanskrit names, different names for the Ma frequency or for the Divine Mother, right? Or for the matriarch, right? So this, if you want to connect with your inner matriarch, or if you want to kind of, be initiated, right? Initiate yourself into the practice of becoming a matriarch, which is actually very rigorous, and it's more intense, actually, than for a woman than it is for a man. So the whole saying as it's easier for men, right? In these tribal times, it kind of is, right? Um, Men are tested in different ways, but women are tested in even greater ways, right? Because we have to have integrity and dignity. We have to, right? Again, to become the patriarch, that's a different sort of model. That's a different sort of structure and pathway that's very, very different from the matriarch, right? Um, but the matriarch is like the backbone. She represents the spine. The spine, the backbone. She represents the roots. Right? Without roots, there's no stability for the tree, for a plant. Right? The tree is it's going to fall over. The wind comes. The tree's going to boop. Storm comes, fall over. Typhoon, tsunami, I want to say, kind of falls over, right? So the woman represents the backbone, the spine, as well as the roots that really holds the tribe together. And roots also represent generations and the lineage of storytelling, of creativity, that a trade or craftsmanship that's been passed down. It also represents knowledge, such as knowledge of herbs or weeds, or even knowledge of time, like history, and how, you've solved the issues, right, problematic sort of scenarios that have presented themselves in, many different generations, right? That's that's the backbone, the roots, right, the foundation that really holds the tribe together, right, and keeps the tribe from, like a tree, like piling over and just like falling over, right, easily, brittly, because there's no backbone, there's no strength to hold it up, right? To hold yourself up in an elevated state, right? Without that elevated state of the woman, basically you're piling over, right? You have no spine, no backbone. You're just all over the place, right? You get desperate. There's discord. You don't know how to solve the problems. Your creativity. You're selling yourself. You're selling your people. You're creating all this conflict, all this unnecessary vengeance. There's no voice of reason. There's all this chaos. You're going to war over emotional commotion, right? And that's what happens for many tribes, where without that voice of reason, again, we go to war over emotional commotion, right? Or we fall over as a tribe because we simply don't know how to sustain ourselves. We don't know how to make food, or we don't know how to we don't have a strategy on food during times of like strife or during times of difficulty, right? Or we kill our food, too much, and then we run out, right? Or we don't know how to prepare for drought or for floods or these kinds of things, right? So then we fall over, right? We fall. So what keeps us from not falling is the sensitivity, intuition, psychic ability of the matriarch. She can sense the flood. She can sense the drought. She has knowledge on warlike behavior between tribes, so she's very vigilant and aware of the behaviors and bad habits of particular people in the tribe. She feeds the children principles of nobility and confidence and, strategy and how to, be strong, and not give in to commotion and seduction and these negative sort of behaviors, right? So let's dive into that inner matriarch. So just follow along and you'll get the rhythm. So just connect with your inner matriarch and think, I am the matriarch. Jayanti Mangala Kali Chandra Kali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada
So just close your eyes once you get it.
Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha
Now really try to go deep into it.
Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada
Do it last time.
Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Datri Swaha Swada Namostute
So inhale,
Jayanti Mangala
squeeze at the heart. Roll the shoulders back, tuck in the chin, squeeze up. Press the tongue on the upper palate, exhale, and just relax. So this was just a little prayer, a little seated prayer dance to connect with that inner Ma, that inner mother, that earth element, right, that earth energy, particularly if you're a woman, right? This video is mainly for women, but it is good for men to know how the matriarch, what her role is in the community, right, or in the tribe. So usually there is one sort of matriarch, right, as we know, kind of like a king, queen, kind of, when we think of the medieval period, there's a king, there's a queen. Before that, medieval sort of patriarchal paradigm, we had what we call, it's more similar to, like, we think of like elephants or wolves when it comes to patriarch and when it comes to matriarch. And basically, again, that was selected by the ancestors. You could say the ancestors, the elders, right? We would give high regard to the elders in this tribal times. We don't really do that anymore as much as we should, right? But a lot of the elders, particularly the community of women, elders of women, they would be the ones that would kind of watch the children, and they would kind of initiate um, sort of the matriarch, known as like also the chosen one. But a lot of times the matriarch was also, it was a part of the lineage of matriarchs that would be chosen, right? Meaning the one that is selected is like the daughter of the matriarch, or the granddaughter, right? But there are, sort of, there are, you can say, openings in which everybody in the tribe is basically connected to the same bloodline, right? So lineage is very different in a tribe, let's say Native American, because we all come from the same bloodline. There isn't really this intermingling of, outsiders or like Europeans and like, like people from the Middle East or people from Japan. Like there isn't really there's none of that going on. So it was basically, the selection was based on the character, right? It's a strong character, strong personality of the young girl or the young woman that would basically indicate leadership, right? Usually a strong sort of, sort of, big personality, or somebody who has like that big sort of spirit, right? Like you met those people that have like a big kind of energy to them, like whoa, the character, the personality is like larger than life. Usually it's though that's kind of the matriarch, right? Because it takes big energy, it takes a big spirit to be able to pass the many tests that are going to be presented and that are going to be really heavy and cause a lot of pressure, right? It takes a big spirit, a big character, a big personality to basically bring the tribe into, right, their victory, right? Because just like any master in a yoga studio, right, or not studio, but like in a yogic sort of community, it's usually the master who creates the trail of what you call like higher energy or ascension or mastery. It's that master that creates the trail, and the community just follows or is pulled in the trail from the master. Very similar with the matriarch is, the matriarch, she creates that big energy, that higher energy, that ascension, that mastery, that big sort of intuitive like house, right? That powerhouse, that hearth, right? Think of hearth as like a powerhouse of life force and fire. Think of the hearth as a fireplace, right? And the community kind of follows that tradition, follows that sort of integrity of that kind of, right, and takes that integrity and gains perspective, as well as gain, you can say, a study, right, a knowledge on how to create a tribe, a community that is wealthy, but also very strong and vigilant and aware and intuitive and psychic, right? Because without those things, like I said, wealth is like all over the place. It's not organized. People are being cheated. People are being still stolen from. People are stealing, and there's just all this mayhem going on because there's no sense of order and there's no sense of discipline and there's no sense of what we call that mother, right? That mother is like that voice of reason that shakes up a son and says, "Son, we need to have a talk." Right? And the son listens or the son obeys because the son knows that the mother, is actually trying to guide him into his nobility, right? But without that ma, it's like there's a lot of mayhem, right? There can be a lot of like sex addiction, just a lot of sort of chaos, but there's no sense of like order to the crises, right? It's just kind of everybody's confused and everyone's in vengeance and everybody's, unresolved and all this trauma that doesn't really, that's not really finding its sort of resolution or balance. So the matriarch is very important to really bring that sort of structure that of integrity that really helps people to remain strong, right? Both in the heart and both in the mind. Because the matriarch has the mind of like a judge, but also has that heart of like a lion. When we think of a lion, we think of I'm protective. I'm like a bear, right? You see me like the claws. When we think of that heart of a lion or the mother, we think of the claws of the bear, the roar of the lion, like very ferocious and very, very secure in their position as an animal or position as a force, right? A force to be reckoned with. That's not so easily seduced and like, selling themselves, for cheap wins, or not so easily brought down by the harshness, the roughness in the attack that, happens where we are attacked from, mayhem and, all kinds of bozos and all kinds of weird stuff. And that's why the matriarch is taught to have a very strong heart because she carries not only the wealth but the grief of the lineage. And grief can be very, very painful, especially if you come from a lineage that has genocide. It can be very, very painful as a matriarch to hold not only the wealth of it's hard, that, but also the grief, right? The grief of the loss of loved ones, the loss of children, people of illness or disease or these kinds of things, right? You hold the grief. And as a matriarch, it takes a very strong heart to not, lose yourself to emotional pain or emotional sadness or emotional sort of, heaviness, right? So that strong heart is that matriarch when everybody's grieving and she's grieving herself. She's able to really elevate so much so that she doesn't really fall, because when she falls, everybody kind of starts to fall, just one after the other, after the other, after the other, right? So it's something that's quite really when we think of the woman, it's a woman who has thick skin, but she also has the tenderness of spirit and the you could say the bigness of character. But yeah, she has that tough sort of skin. Um, but that tough skin doesn't mean that she's numb, she's desensitized, we call this masculine, where I avoid and I distract and I do all kinds of deceptive ways to get what I want. It just means that, I have scars, I carry the scars of my tribe, my lineage of where we've been and things we've done and, the karma and the dharma of all of it. But I am strategic enough at creating some sort of story or invention that can help us to continue to progress, right? Continue to heal and continue to grow and to continue to excel. So that's everything about the matriarch. So thank you for joining me in Satnam.